We have a very long and powerful day in front of us. So I'd like to say good morning to everyone who's here, and for everybody coming in a little bit later, try to share a good morning with them a little bit later on as well. My name is Deb Cruz, and I'm president of JUUstice Washington, and I also come from the Bellingham Unitarian Fellowship. I'd like to welcome you all to the 2020 Northwest Justice Summit of JUUstice Washington. All who come in the spirit of goodwill are welcome here. I'm going to read the land acknowledgement that we use here in Whatcom County in Washington State when we open any of our gatherings. We acknowledge that this land is the traditional territory of the Lummi and Nooksack peoples. Their presence is imbued in these mountains, valleys, waterways, and shorelines. May we nurture our relationship with our Coast Salish neighbors and the shared responsibilities to their homelands where we all reside today. While we go on with the introduction, if you would please take a moment to go into the chat box at the bottom of your screen and type in your name and the congregation or organization that you happen to be with, if any, the city and state you're coming from, and if you happen to know whose Indigenous territory you reside on, please include that information as well. For those of you who are not familiar with JUUstice Washington, we are the UU, or the Unitarian Universalist Action Network, collaborating and networking to address a myriad of social and environmental justice issues throughout Washington. However, the Washington part of that is a bit of a misnomer, as our work and connections take us well beyond Washington into the Pacific Northwest region, across the United States, and internationally as well. We also do not work exclusively within our own faith, but we readily greet and encourage alliances and partnerships with all faith and wisdom traditions and other environmental and social justice organizations with whom we can join forces to collaborate. And if you want more information on who we are, you can go to justwa.org. That's JUUSTWA.org. And you can check out our site there. We are recording these summit panels, and we will be making those available a little later on, and we'll have transcripts that we will also make available to you later on. What will happen today is that each one of our panels, the panelists, will have 20 minutes to speak. After all the panelists have spoken, we'll then go into a Q&A session, and then we will go into breakout rooms. This year's summit is different than previous summits in that we will be conducting it in two different sessions. Last night and all day today is part one, and it will be a series of panels that are going to focus on 5 different areas. Last night was our First American Indian Nations, which was extremely profound. Today's panels will focus on racial justice, environmental justice, legislative advocacy, and our refugee, immigrant, and migrant solidarity, or RIMS group. Each of the panel sessions will speak to the issues that the panelists feel that are important to them and what they need to be focusing on in the days ahead, and where we might be able to lend a hand in our voices in support of their efforts, or where we need to turn inward, start educating, informing, and transforming ourselves so we can be prepared to move into the business of restoring some sense of sanity and get us back on track to building more equitable and honoring future for all of us and the earth on which we rely. Part 2 will take place the first week of December, the 4th to the 6th. During this session, we're going to take the information generously provided to us by the panelists, combine them with the results of the November elections, and start building some strategies and action plans to carry us at least throughout the rest of the year. So take notes be prepared to do some homework and be ready to roll into action in December. Again, I thank you all for attending, and a special call out of gratitude to all of our panelists that are coming in for the day, and for our staff people who are working to make this happen. Everyone's got a lot of busy schedules, and I just so appreciate you taking the time for spending some time with us today. And so now I am going to turn this over to our esteemed Reverend Dennis Reynolds, and he will lead us with stories and words and blessings to begin our sacred time together this day.
Thank you. And thanks to all of you for the work you do and the work you are preparing to do going forward from this time. The words of our chalice lighting are a gift from Lisa Friedman, and I've asked Allie Tharp to read them with me. Spirit of life and love. Allie?
We live in a fragmented world that tempts us to despair.
We would put it back together piece by piece if it were ours to choose.
But sometimes the fragments are enough.
In a world of cruelty,
There is still power in every act of kindness.
in a time of doubt,
There is still power in every act of hope.
in an age of division,
There is still power in every act of unity.
may we remember that sometimes the fragments of meaning are just the right size for us to hold them in our hands. Right now, we'd like to see if we can get the lyrics up. If not, to Spirit of Life. If not, I have no doubt that there are many amongst us who know the song. It's number 123 in our gray hymnal. It's written by Carolyn McDade, Spirit of Life is, and it's sometimes been known as the anthem of Unitarian Universalism. Please join me in singing. Spirit of life, come unto me, sing in my heart all the stirrings of compassion. Blow in the wind, rise in the sea, move in the hand, giving life the shape of justice. Roots hold me close, wings set me free. Spirit of life, come to me, come to me. Thank you. I'm going to move now into a brief time of beyond words, but moving first through deepening words for some grounding meditation. Because sometimes the important work we do in justice work is the work that grounds us. And as Unitarian Universalists, that grounding comes in many forms. For some of us, it comes in the work itself. For some of it, it's times in nature. For some, it's prayer. I'm reminded of a quote attributed to the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., who said, he prayed for an hour every day, except when things were very intense and stressful. And then it was 2 hours. Acknowledging that the time for our grounding, for what sustains us in justice work, becomes more important when there's more work to be done. So in that spirit, I invite you into a time of grounding meditation. We'll have some words, some time of silence, and I'll share reflection as we remain in silence together. The words of our meditation are from Thich Nhat Hanh, the Vietnamese Buddhist teacher, who tomorrow celebrates his 94th birthday, or as the Buddhists call it, celebrating his continuation. He's called the father of engaged Buddhism. Amongst this teacher's wise messages, he reminds us that compassion is a verb. Let us honor his teachings with our shared silence and our shared breath. So settle yourself. Sit in a way that's comfortable for you, and that's different for different folks. I suggest feet on the floor to help ground you. The Buddhists suggest a straight back and a soft belly to allow the breath to flow in and out more freely. Shut your eyes if you wish as we breathe together. Breathing in, breathing out. In and out, in and out, in and out. Breathing in, I see myself as a flower. Breathing out, I feel fresh. Flower, fresh. Flower, fresh. Breathing in, I see myself as a mountain. Breathing out, I feel solid. Mountain, solid. Mountain, solid. Breathing in, I see myself as still water. Breathing out, I see things, I reflect things as they are. Water, reflecting. Water, reflecting. Breathing in, I see myself as space. Breathing out, I feel free. Space, free. Space, free. I invite you now to take one deep in cleansing breath and one out cleansing breath. And I hope that you may go forward today and each day with a renewed feeling of freshness. May you go forward with solid mountain-like strength. May you find moments of sustaining stillness in clear reflection. May all of us find space to imagine and to deepen our capacity to continue the work of creating greater freedom and justice for all life, for all existence. May we breathe these things into our life and into our work. Just remember, dear friends, no matter how stressful it is, we must take time to breathe. And that's difficult in these times. And today and the days to follow, you will be discussing facets of our current reality. It's a daunting reality. You will strategize and plan, and I hope you'll take some time to imagine imagine new possibilities, imagine the world we see. For imagining is the precursor to the actions we take. I invite you too to look to wisdom from the past, and in addition to facts and analysis and strategizing, look within and take time to look at the world and the work we do through the lens of metaphor and story. Sometimes ancient stories that come to us from the past can guide us as we move forward into the future. And so in that light this morning, I want to share with you an ancient story. It's the story of Weaver Woman. Now, the story exists in a number of traditions in a variety of forms. I'm doing an adapted version of my remembered version of two accountings I heard of this story. One was from Michael Meade, the writer, teacher, and wise man who lives on Vashon Island, Washington, surrounded by the Puget Sound. And the other is from Will Hornihack, who's a storyteller based in Portland. The story takes place in a cave. It may be far away, or perhaps this cave is not far from here. Maybe it's over at the base of the mountains. I suspect it might be somewhere near the base of Mount Rainier, the great Tahoma to the Puyallup people. Or perhaps it's amidst the rubble of Mount St. Helens, Luhuit, or Lawala Chocolon, Kloch, to the Klickitat, or Siyet to the Yakima people, meaning in that language, the woman. The entrance to the cave is hidden amongst a jungle of huge boulders. Its path is hard to see because the entrance is across hard rock that leaves no visible pathway. But if you know the way, or if you're very lucky, you might come across it. Within this cave dwells a very, very old and a very wise woman. This ancient woman is continually engaged in two tasks. In the front of the cave, she has a small fire going, upon which sits a large pot with a simmering, rich stew. The rich broth is made up of all the riches of the earth. Its base is thickened with tree roots and mushrooms. Its broth is filled with pieces of meat and a myriad of vegetables, some which grow wild and some which come from a garden that the old woman tends near the entrance to her cave. It is spiced with delicious and potent herbs that the wise woman harvests in fields and forests. It is a rich soup, which is filled with nutrients, and it has the magic capacity needed to feed all the people and all beings. Further back in the cave is a massive loom upon which is hung an intricate and exquisite tapestry. Woven within this tapestry are threads of the past, stories remembered from long ago, and accounts of what happened just yesterday or the day before, and a few shimmering strands of what may yet come into being. The wise woman makes careful selections from baskets of material, both ancient and new, to create a beautiful image rich in color and texture. Some of the materials, though, are stiff and brittle, so the wise old woman chews them to soften them. Her teeth are old and worn, just barely up to the task. She chews as she weaves, and she weaves as she chews. She is weaving the tapestry of the unfolding story of the earth. So she works with dedication and brings diligence and deep intention to this work. Then, in the midst of her weaving, she remembers her other tasks. So she sets aside her weaving and returns to the mouth of the cave to tend the fire there and to stir the rich stew. As she approaches the fire, a shadowy figure moves silently along the cave wall. entering as she exits. All is well in the pot. Its sweet smells fill the air. She tastes a bit with her wooden stirring spoon, carefully adds a bit of herb from a leather bag she wears around her neck, gives the fire a poke, and adds another log before returning to her weaving. When she enters her stone weaving room, there she sees a big black dog. What black dog? She rushes forward to the dog, for the dog has taken the bottom rows of the tapestry in its teeth and is pulling and tearing and snarling, pulling apart her careful weavings. After she chases the dog, her own beloved dog, away from the loom, the dog's teeth snag on strands of the tapestry, and as the beast rushes from the cave, it trails threads and strands of the great story that had been emerging, throwing them out along the mountainside. When the dog has left, the wise woman again sits before the loom. She takes a deep breath, spends a bit of time in silence, and then she reaches into the baskets of fiber of the past and of events unfolding, selecting what will become the next strands, or perhaps she picks a bit of fiber that needs softening, and she chews and begins anew the task of weaving the continuing story of the earth. So it is, and so it always has been, and so it shall be. Weaving the story as it unfolds is the work of our lives. Selecting the threads of progress is our calling. Sometimes we can see more beauty and greater strength emerge in the tapestry of life. Other times, our careful work is torn apart by the beasts of greed and self-aggrandizing power. In our times, it seems much of the unraveling has come not from a dark-haired dog, but rather from an orange-haired human. Sometimes, when things become unraveled, we realize there are previously knots or other flaws in the weaving that have been revealed, and we need to pull out some threads to undo previous errors and ugliness like white supremacy cultures and inequalities that have been woven into the fabric of our culture. So I invite you today to look at the work you are doing as an integral part of the continuing work that is, as a Unitarian Universalist, as people of faith, we have heard a calling to weave a world that is more just and sustainable for all people and all life. Ours is a faith that lifts up both reason and deep love and story and metaphor to aid us in the stirrings of our life and call us to keep working, to keep weaving and reweaving, to keep imagining and reimagining, to keep building and rebuilding. Remember, too, that disruptions will continue to occur, for humans are flawed beings, and the things that will create these unravelings lie within the psyche of all of us, of each of us. Success in the next elections will not be enough. There are no doubts be much to chew on and materials to gather in the months and years to come. We will no doubt need to weave resilience into our future, as well as steps to reduce harm, particularly in the world of climate justice. Those of us who come from places and identities of privilege will need to continue to critically question and assess how we can best create new realities that bring to the center those who have far too long been pushed to the margins. We will also need to listen and to follow. The weavings and reweaving of the world is an awesome and often daunting task, yet our work is sustained by our faith, by our practices, and by our deep belief that what we do matters, that human actions make a difference. Our commitment to the work is sustained too by a deep belief in the value of human action and the changes that will in time come. It was the Unitarian Universalist minister Theodore Parker who said back in 1853, "I do not pretend to understand the moral universe. The arc is a long one. My eyes reach but little ways. I cannot calculate the curve and complete the figure by experience of sight. I can divine it by conscience. And from where I see, I am sure it bends towards justice." The Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King paraphrased Parker's words and wove them into his own love-based work for justice. Indeed, the arc bends towards justice. It bends because we keep pushing it. We keep pushing not as solitary beings, but as communities gather together to make love real through our deeds. That wise Buddhist teacher Thich Nhat Hanh told us that nonviolent action, born of the awareness of suffering and nurtured by love, is the most effective way to confront adversity. So today, and in the times that follow, we will weave new possibilities of what can be, and when needed, repair and reweave what has been torn asunder. This is the work we've been called to do. Grounded in love, may we answer the call. May it be so. May we make it so. We end our time of shared worship with a song of benediction. We shall be known by Matt Smith.
We shall be known by the company we keep, by the ones who circle round to tend these fires. We shall be known by the ones who sow and reap the seeds of change alive from deep within the earth. It is time now. It is time now that we thrive. It is time we lead ourselves into the well. It is time now, and what a time to be alive. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. We shall be known by the company we keep, by the ones who circle round to tend these fires. We shall be known by the ones who sow and reap the seeds of change alive from deep within the earth. It is time now. It is time now that we thrive. It is time we lead ourselves into the well. It is time now, and what a time to be alive. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love.